Welcome to the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. Hello, blind hockey fans, and welcome to episode 6 of the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. I'm your host, Nico Cardarelli. Today's episode is a special one as it focuses on one of the newest and fastest growing regions of the Canadian blind hockey community. I'm talking about Atlantic Canada. Up until only 3 years ago, there was not a single blind hockey program east of Montreal. Canadian Blind Hockey is particularly proud that our Try-It sessions and events have now helped lead to the creation of the Nova Scotia See Kings, the Newfoundland Islanders, and soon the Moncton See Cats. Blind hockey is thriving in Atlantic Canada, and today's episode will feature representatives from all three programs. Speaking of blind hockey players from the East Coast, today's co-host is who I like to call one of the top 3 players in the world from Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, and he currently serves as the president of Canadian Blind Hockey. I'd like to welcome Kelly Serbu to the show. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you on as a co-host. You know, you wear so many different hats, and you've been around the blind hockey community now for over 5 years. I'm curious what it's been like for you to witness the growth in Atlantic Canada from basically a non-existent program to now a thriving parasport with 3 programs.
I guess my immediate response would be it's amazing to see how quickly the sport has grown across the country, and in particular in the Maritimes, in such a short period of time. I find it just very, very rewarding, I guess, for the blind hockey community and also for the communities that now it's able to provide blind hockey to.
You know, you've played a wide range of roles, worn many hats in Canadian blind hockey over those last 5 years, including national team captain, volunteer, coach for youth programs, sponsor, and you're now serving as president of the association. We've touched on this in previous episodes when we've had you on, but what is it that you love about Canadian blind hockey? And why is it so important for you to both give back your time and support to the association?
For me, I love to see the growth of the sport. Like you hit on at the start of the program, the development of blind hockey in Atlantic Canada. For me, before I knew about blind hockey, obviously it didn't exist in Atlantic Canada the way it does now with coming on to 3 club teams now. I really like to see the growth. I really like to see those individuals who are visually impaired, who may have not have known about blind hockey or thought that they could never play hockey, now have that opportunity to put on the skates and to play Canada's favorite game.
You know, last year, Canadian Blind Hockey hosted a tournament in Halifax during the 2019 CHL Memorial Cup. You were instrumental in the push to make that happen, and this was the first time that Canadian Blind Hockey hosted a tournament in Atlantic Canada. What was it like for you to finally get to play a blind hockey game in Halifax, introduce your family and friends to the parasport of blind hockey in person, and really showcase the passion that you have for the sport?
It was awesome. I guess that's the first word that pops to mind. My parents had not seen me play blind hockey live, so both my mom and dad got to come out with my sister. My kids were able to watch me play. I had about 15 guys I played junior A hockey with show up on the Saturday. They were heckling me from start to finish of the game, having a great time. They hadn't seen the sport played live. You get a different appreciation for it when you're actually at the rink, and you get to see how competitive people are, how hard they're back checking. A lot of times if you watch it on TV, you don't see what's happening behind the scenes. But being able to show it to the Maritimes, and in particular my home community, I found it very rewarding, and I was happy that we were able to bring it to Halifax around the Memorial Cup.
You know, you obviously have a strong passion for blind hockey programming at all levels, from children and youth getting on the ice for the very first time to elite members of the national team. I've got a 2-part question for you. Why is it important for children and youth to get involved in the sport at such a young age? And why do you feel it's important for people who are blind or partially sighted to get involved in sports in general?
Well, as far as youth go, I think that hockey or any team sport in general uh, provides a lot of life lessons to kids. It teaches people about work ethic, working as a team. It teaches kids resiliency. The team may start off having a bad year, but through perseverance and working together as a team, they can see how they improve. And this is a sport that you can truly play for life. I started playing hockey when I was 3. My dad's now 74, and he continues to play hockey 3 times a week. So whether you're, sighted or partially sighted, this is truly a sport that's for everyone that you can play, throughout your entire life. So I think that starting the kids very young and helping them learn those lessons is very valuable. As far as, developing the sport, I guess for adults, same type of life lessons. And also it's great to, connect with other people that, face the same challenge that you do day in and day out. Before I met the blind hockey community, I was really the only visually impaired person I knew, apart from 2 people I went to law school with that were visually impaired as well. Being able to connect with people that suffer the same adversity and have to go through the same trials and tribulations as I do in a team setting is quite remarkable. And for me, it's very rewarding to help and to be helped by my teammates, make sure that we overcome those obstacles. And also to show the public that whether or not you have a disability of whatever kind, that you can still succeed at the goals that you set for yourself.
Yeah, it's a really great point. It's very powerful to see that in person as well. When, like you said, you get out to the rink and you witness that firsthand. Kelly, I'm curious to get your thoughts on something unique to Atlantic Canada, because part of the unique challenges in starting programs in Atlantic Canada is just the population density. And it's, unique to other parts of the country in terms of just the challenges it can present in getting a program up and running. But I think it's a credit to all the volunteers, the organizers, key people behind the scenes, coaches that have been able to successfully start programs in that region. So I'm curious what your thoughts and where you hope to see the development of blind hockey in Atlantic Canada grow, how it continues to grow, and how Canadian blind hockey will help continue to lead that development.
Well, ideally, I'd like to see a blind hockey program start in PEI. Whether or not that's realistic based on the numbers, I guess remains to be seen. But overall, if the Atlantic provinces in each of their programs could grow it at the grassroots and have parents bring their kids out to try try skating if they've never been on the ice before. And then my hope is that a lot of those children will take up whether it's power skating or join other minor hockey programs at a level that they're comfortable playing, that they're safe and that they're having fun at, so they can develop their skills. Obviously, the longer and the more that you can get on the ice, the better you're going to develop your skills. And really the key to hockey is skating. So I want to see as many kids get on the ice as much as possible, whether it's with a stick in their hand or not, because once they accomplish, the skills of skating, then playing the game becomes a little bit easier and they don't have to focus so much on their skating.
Well, Kelly, we've got a great show today. We're excited to have you on as co-host. We're going to hear from blind hockey players who are helping to pave the way across the Atlantic region. First up, we're going to chat with our New Brunswick representative as we visit with Simone Richard, as he is the founder of the all-new Moncton See Cats program, and of course one of your teammates on the Canadian national blind hockey team. And then we're going to hop over to the Rock as we'll check in with our St. John's player profile featuring Kaiden Benoit of the Newfoundland Islanders blind hockey team, a young up-and-coming promising player and prospect. And then finally, we're going to fly back over to Halifax and visit with Jillian Stewart of the Nova Scotia See Kings blind hockey program. So with all that being said, let's get this show up and running as we're into episode 6 of the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We're now very excited to be joined by Simone Richard from the Canadian National Blind Hockey Team and also founder of the brand new Moncton See Cats. Simone, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Nico.
Oh, thank you. We're excited to chat with you. And, I want to go back to the very first time you heard about blind hockey. What were your thoughts and what was your first experience like playing the sport?
Oh, wow. That goes back quite a bit. So my first spot and the first time I've heard of the sport, actually, I'll go back to the first time I've kind of thought about the sport. The first time I thought about the sport was way back like in '06 or '07. I was probably 12, 13 years old. Never heard of the sport at that point, and I just thought to myself, if ever there was a blind hockey sport, I would totally join. At that point, I was still playing sided hockey. I'm still to this day, but I was also playing goalball, so I was getting exposed in the pair sport world, and just thought to myself, if there was ever such a thing, I would totally join, and I would just jump on it. And then after that, I heard about the sport in 2013. That was my first time, but I heard about it. Didn't get a chance to try it for a couple of years after that, and once I tried it in 2016, I was hooked. Right from the first drop of a puck, I was hooked. I actually tried. My first time trying it was actually with Kelly in Halifax also. So it was very, very exciting for me.
We'll touch a little bit more about your blind hockey career, your experiences with the national team, relationships with guys like our co-host today, Kelly Serbu. But I want to touch on your athletic career in general, because we really could have featured you on last week's episode of the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast, where we spoke to people from the community who represented Canada at Paralympic Games. And of course, as you touched on, you've played goalball for many, many years, and you were a member of the Canadian crew at the Paralympics. So that was, I'm sure, a very special experience for you. But as you kind of alluded to, you've always had the love of blind hockey. And to be a member of the Canadian National Blind Hockey Team, what did it mean to you to be able to wear the maple leaf in the sport of blind hockey?
Oh, it's such an honor. Like you said, I've competed not only in blind hockey but in goalball too for Canada, and it's such an honor to represent Canada on the international stage. You know, Internationally, it's such a big deal because you're playing with players from across the country that maybe you've never played throughout other tournaments, maybe at nationals or stuff like that. And it's just such an honor to represent your family, your friends from your own community. A small town like me, it's not too often that you get somebody to represent your community, especially on an international stage. So it's such an honor on that point too. And going to Paralympics, that was a highlight for me. It was definitely a special moment. Both my parents were there. My brother was there, and it's like you said, it's just an honor. And it's hard to explain it in words. You really got to live through it to learn about it and live the experience, obviously. But it's just it's really, really special.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you and who's now a former national blind hockey teammate, but one day looks to get back on the national team, Bruno Haché, you guys would have shared those Paralympic experiences together. Can you touch on, that relationship and how unique it would have been to have someone, to share that experience in goalball with, but also in blind hockey, as you guys both represented Canada at both those levels?
Yeah, it was. Bruno's one of my close friends, and he's been a really good friend for years in both sports. The first time I remember, the first time I met Bruno was at my first senior national championship in goalball, and we clicked right from the get go. He was representing Quebec at the time. I was representing Brunswick, and we just clicked in goalball. And obviously, once I learned from him that he was also playing blind hockey, I was kind of intrigued and kind of learned about it from him. And from there, I always wanted to try the sport, and finally, a couple of years after that, I tried it. And then, last year in Pittsburgh, or 2 years ago now, we were in Pittsburgh together, and it was just such a moment to spend that moment again with them. In Rio, we were together too, and
Yes.
for Go Balls, so it was awesome. The experience was quite memorable, not only for me but for both of us, as we're close friends, and we'll share those memories together.
That's certainly special. I'm curious, what are your goals in founding the brand new Moncton See Cats blind hockey team? And when it is safe to return to play, what are your plans to get the group out on the ice?
So it's such an honor to start a new program here in Moncton. The Blind See Cats, Moncton Blind Hockey Club. It's such an honor because we don't have many sports in New Brunswick for blind and visually impaired athletes. So to have not only a sport that's totally new to everybody, which nobody ever knew about before I started playing in New Brunswick, but it's just so special because you can get those communities together, which we don't really have that many in New Brunswick. And we started not only a blind hockey program this year, but we also started like a Go Ball club again last year. So it's really neat that both those clubs can kind of mesh together, and a lot of those young kids and adults will be featured in both those clubs, and it's just kind of nice that it gives them an opportunity not only to compete, to play the game that they love, as fellow Canadians. We all love hockey, and we all want to skate. We all want to play hockey, and there was a lot of people there that wanted this try, and they're going to try this year, and it's going to be a great year for them.
Simone, you have such a unique perspective. You do so much work with Parasport New Brunswick. You're a elite level athlete in multi sports. You're obviously dedicated and passionate to growing the sport and providing those opportunities for people who are blind or visually impaired. So I'm curious, in terms of the work that you do, everything that you kind of strive for here, where do you envision both the short-term and the long-term future of blind hockey in Atlantic Canada?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting, Nico, because there's a lot of potential here, not only in New Brunswick, but in Atlantic Canada, to really have a few teams that are close. And I think eventually what we want to do is having not only multiple teams in Atlantic Canada and the Maritimes, but it's also being able to play each other maybe a couple times a year, right? So that would be kind of cool. And since we're only a couple hours drive away, it's very feasible to maybe do that 5-6 times during the year, right? So it's something that maybe we want to strive for eventually. Obviously, we need to make sure the programs are stable before. The one in Nova Scotia is thriving right now, and same thing in Newfoundland. It's going really well there too. So we really got to push and make sure that all those programs are stable, that they're growing, and then after that we can all come together once or twice or 3 or 4 times a year, and we can play each other and have a lot of fun and keep growing the sport that way.
Simone, I'm curious, what are your top 3 blind hockey memories so far?
There's a lot on the list. I would say the first one would be really to win the Canada US series. The first one was probably the biggest one for me. But both of those series were special. It's quite an honor to not only represent your country, but then to win at such a top level in the world, and you're not only with the best players in Canada, but the best players in the US playing against each other, and it's just a top level to be in. So I would say that would be my first. My second would probably be the first time I played. In Halifax, like I mentioned before, it was just such a great time. We had the Dalhousie Tigers, university team that was there to help out during that practice or that scrimmage. Like I mentioned, there's a few other players, myself, Kelly, a few other Halifax players that were there. Matt Morrow was there, and it was just a great time. And like I said, I'm playing sided hockey like usual, but that was like a really special moment for me to really start my blind hockey career, I guess, and really try it for the first time. My third one is probably all the memories that I have, not only with the national team for blind hockey, but all the other players across Canada. I love to go to just nationals and chat with, all the other players all across different levels. The little kids, I love to go and watch them play. It's so inspiring to see those little kids and seeing what the future of the sport is. We have a long way to go with this sport, but I really have some great expectations for this sport, and I think we can go really a long way with this.
That's a really interesting point in terms of your third memory, just interacting and that youth, that next generation. I think about one of your national room teammates, Joe Fernazzier, one of our youngest players on the team. You've got such a unique position here where you're a role model to him in his, being his roommate, and you kind of have the opportunity to show him how a professional really lives day in and day out. What does that mean to you to kind of be able to, have that hands-on opportunity to be a mentor to a young up-and-coming player like Joe?
Oh, Joe is such a good kid. Since the first time I met him was really at one of the nationals and one of the summer camps, and I talked to his dad, and then we kind of got in touch from there. But he's such a good kid. He's such a nice guy to get along with, not only on the ice but off the ice too. And we've grown to be really good friends, not only roommates but really good friends. And he's just so easy to kind of guide in the right direction. He always has a good head on his shoulders, and he knows, he already knows kind of what he needs to do. So it's very easy to be a role model for him, I guess, and just trying to guide him in the right direction. But he's a great player. He has a great future in front of him, and he's not only the present as he is already on the team, but he's big part of the future, and he's going to be he's himself going to be a big role model for the next generations up to coming. So he's a big part for Canada.
Simone, I know you got to get going, but before we say goodbye, are you okay if we do a quick little rapid fire game with you?
For sure, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to start. I know you've got one of the best diets on the team, so tell us what your favorite pregame meal is.
Oh, I would say my favorite pregame meal is probably like a couple chicken sandwich and a few fruits with it, probably. You get some good protein, you get some good fruits in it, and then I always jump in a few veggies in the sandwich too. So it's a good balanced meal, and it's always good to have your protein, your carbs, and all that just to get you going.
I like that. That's smart. Now, if it's a cheat day, what's your favorite cheat meal?
I don't have many cheat days, to be honest. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, I always try to keep my balanced diet always running, and just always trying to better myself, not only as an athlete, rounded athlete, but always trying to be better on and off the ice with my training and my diet. So.
I tried. Other than Joe, who is your favorite player on the national team to room with?
You know what? I have a really good relationship with all the guys, and they're all so nice to be a part with, and I wouldn't mind anybody to be my roommate. Actually, probably one of my favorite ones though is probably a connection to Maritime, I guess, and probably Elle would be a nice one to room with at some point. But I'm very, very happy with the team, and we all have nice connections. So it wouldn't really matter for me at the end of the day.
Okay, fair enough. One of the things you excel at on the ice is foot speed. You are unquestionably one of the fastest skaters on the team. But in your opinion, and you can include yourself, who is the fastest skater on the Canadian national blind hockey team?
I would say it's Raymond, Tommy. He's speedy. He has a lot of skill. He's young, and obviously as a young boy, he has young fresh legs. So he he's speeding through the ice, and it's such a nice time to play with him. Obviously, we're both speedy guys, and we can take advantage of the other team by doing that, by using our best asset, which is our speed. And yeah, just such a nice guy, obviously, and I just love playing with him.
Yeah, one of our up and coming players, that's for sure. Okay, lastly, in your opinion, of all the defensemen on the national team, who is the toughest to beat one on one?
I would say on our team, probably the toughest to beat one-on-one was probably Tristan. He's so solid at both ends of the ice. He's a pretty big body too, so can't really get through him. You have to go around him really. So you got to use your speed. You got to use your edges and stuff, and really be a little bit defensive too. And it's just he's such a nice guy too, and just a well-rounded athlete and player on the ice.
Simone, you've been a great sport today. I want to end with one final thought here. Having been a Paralympian in another parasport, do you think that the sport of blind hockey is on the right path to gain Paralympic inclusion one day?
I totally do. The steps that we're taking are the right ones. We still have a long ways to go, I think, but we're taking the right steps, and it's taking it one day at a time, trying to better ourselves, better sport by doing the right thing, by getting the right people involved, and just reaching out to other countries and keeping up the great work that we're all doing. And it's all going to come into works. I think it's all going to come together at the end of the day. And we're definitely on the right path. So we have a lot of good people on board right now, and we just got to keep going.
Well, that was great to hear from Simone. Kelly, you and Simone are friends and teammates with the national team. I'm wondering if you can share a story with us about his level of competition and his dedication to the sport of blind hockey.
Well, first, Simone would never miss a curfew. He's the first one to bed, I think, every night that we're together as a team. And he clearly will never miss a workout. Usually he's probably gone for a run before most of us have got up for breakfast in the morning. Very dedicated, very focused, great teammate.
Great insight there from fellow teammates. And folks, stay tuned, because coming up next, it's one of my favorite segments of the show. It's our player profile segment. Now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the show, the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast Player Profile. During this player profile segment, we'll be sharing your blind hockey testimonials. Each week, we'll feature a different player from the community. Today's player profile features an up-and-coming superstar from the Newfoundland Islanders. My name is Kaiden Benoit, and I'm 10 years old and live in Bay Bulls, Newfoundland. I began playing blind hockey at the age of 6 years old. I started out playing minor hockey with the Southern Shore Breakers, but I was having trouble seeing the puck and hearing the coach, and I found it hard to stay interested. When my mom found out about blind hockey, I was very excited. I couldn't wait to try it out. Blind hockey is amazing. I felt part of the group, and being the youngest of the group didn't matter. We all became very good friends very quickly. I was so excited last year to get to go to the Blind Hockey National Tournament with my friends. It was so awesome seeing so many people just like me. We all had so much fun and made lots of new friends. I can't wait to go back. I'm always excited to tell everyone about blind hockey. And me, my mom, and Coach Steve have even gotten to do some interviews to help people learn about blind hockey. More now from Kaiden's mom, Lisa. As Kaiden's mom, I would like to say blind hockey has totally changed our lives. Kaiden is now eager to get on the ice and do drills and play the game. He has excelled so much since joining the program, and he's made so many new friends. Kaiden has learned and continues to learn that his eyesight is only a road bump, and where there is a will, there's a way. Thank you, Canadian Blind Hockey, for being there to give confidence and teaching our children there are no limits. Well, thank you for sharing your love of blind hockey, Kaiden and Lisa. Calling all blind hockey players out there to share your blind hockey testimonial with a chance to hear your very own story here on the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. Email your testimonial to info@blindicehockey.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm now excited to be joined by Jillian Stewart, who's a member of the Nova Scotia See Kings blind hockey team. Jill, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you on today, and I really want to start with your early beginnings in the sport of blind hockey, because Jill, you participated in some of the organization's earliest children and youth try it blind hockey programs in Halifax all the way back in 2011. Take us back to those early days when you first found out about the sport and when you first got involved with blind hockey, and how you've seen the sport grow, especially in Atlantic Canada.
So when I first found out about it, I had newly become visually impaired, and I got an email from my teacher at the Atlantic Provinces Special Education Authority. Hey, there's this, come and try it. Do you wanna go out? And I'm like, well, it's a day off school. I've been scared of my hockey skates, so this is an excuse to finally get back on them. Hey, maybe this could be fun. So I did that a couple of times. I even got to do it when I was in college, which was fun. And we made our program in 2017.
And I'm glad you bring that up because, you know, you've been involved from those early days in 2011 all the way up now to the founding of the See Kings in 2017. So tell us what it means to you to, you know, now have a blind hockey program in your own community, because back in 2011, when there wasn't regular programming, you had to play sled hockey instead. So now you've got, I guess, your preferred option in blind hockey in your own backyard. So I got to think that's pretty cool.
I did actually. This past season was my first season not playing sledge hockey because I preferred blind hockey, even though I was the goalie for sled.
And you're not a goalie in blind, obviously.
No, I leave that up to Oliver and Stephanie.
You know, I want to touch on other important people in the program, and one of them is right there in your household. Of course, your father, Jeff, who's one of the coaches with the See Kings. He's one of our key volunteers as well. You know, personally, I've had the chance to be on the ice with him during development camps. He's such a fantastic guy. But what's it like for you having your dad as a coach and getting to, you know, shape the program together?
Um, he's been my coach for sled too, and it can be hard. We both have tempers, and sometimes we kind of get mad at each other. There was one time when he was goalie coaching me last year, and we got into a match, and he just basically handed me off to the head coach. But it's a learning experience, you know. you got to remember when you're on the ice, he's not your dad.
Right. He's
He's
just
your coach.
Yeah.
And having him on the ice is sometimes a comfort for me because blind hockey is still kind of a bit scary for me at times because I'm still getting used to people coming from everywhere at me, especially when I have the puck.
It's interesting because last year Canadian Blind Hockey hosted the first ever blind hockey tournament in Atlantic Canada with the Halifax Blind Hockey Series. You played in that event. Your dad coached, your sisters played and volunteered as well. Having a blind hockey tournament at home, being around your family and friends, what was that experience like for you?
It was incredible. My grandparents were there. My uncle and aunt were there. I got to show my family what this sport looked like, and that was incredible for me to play it in my home rink. And I enjoyed it, and it was my first time playing with the big kids because I had started off in the youth division at the national tournament.
I'm sure you've heard by now, Canadian Blind Hockey has recently launched the Canadian Women's Blind Hockey Program. Your family is obviously very big into women's hockey with you and your sisters all playing. So what does it mean to you to have a dedicated stream of blind hockey programming specifically for females? And where do you hope the future of the women's game goes?
I think it's incredible, not just for myself, but for the younger females in our program here in Halifax, and for our goalie, Stephanie, as I think she might be the first female goalie.
In Canada, I believe so. I know in the U.S. there's a couple. I know we've had some females play goalie on and off before, but I don't know if we've had a steady female goaltender. And if we do, I apologize for not knowing. But yeah, that's pretty exciting because, you mentioned Oliver a little bit earlier, and if Stephanie's learning anything from Oliver, that could make her quite an interesting prospect. So the fact that there would already be, a goaltender of some skill for the women's team, that's pretty cool. That's exciting.
And she has her own kind of dedicated coach to her and Oliver here in Nova Scotia.
So that's
another buddy of Dad's who got roped into the sport.
Well, touch on like the strong community and volunteer group that's there, because to grow a program out of basically nothing, that's pretty incredible. So can you touch on maybe some of those key volunteers there?
So for us, a lot of our volunteers come from the special needs program that's on the ice before us. And some of them are family members of our players, including my younger sister who works with our littlest guy. And our goalie coach, Ricky, who is a coworker of Dad's. We get a lot of university students who are kind of like, hey, I saw this. How can I help?
Jill, before we let you go, I'm curious, because you've been involved in the sport for so long, what are your top blind hockey memories so far?
Oh my goodness, that's a bit of a toughie, but back at the end of November of 2019, we went to St. John, New Brunswick, to do kind of a rec exhibition game against the Maine Blind Bears. And I got to play for the Blind Bears, and I scored 2 goals against Stephanie.
Jill, I think you'd agree the sport, anyone who gets involved, that's kind of the great thing. Not only do you have the opportunity to get on the ice, but you'll end up building those special memories and those special connections with people who, are in a similar situation as yourself. And that's a very powerful thing.
Absolutely.
Well, Jill, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show today. We want to wish you all the best, and we hope you and your family are safe. And once it's safe, we look forward to getting back on the ice.
Yes, absolutely. I miss hockey so much. That was the hardest blow to us, was the loss of hockey.
Kelly, what a fantastic episode we had today. Before we wrap up this week's episode, I have to put you on the spot, as I do with all my co-hosts, because we want to know what your top 3 blind hockey memories are so far.
Top 3? Tough. I guess the first one would be, the first time I stepped on the ice to play blind hockey at the Madden Center. I think that was probably the highlight for me, I guess, till now, because it was the first time I got to see the sport and actually play it. Second would be my parents and my kids being able to watch me play blind hockey live last year in May in Halifax during the Memorial Cup weekend. And third, it's a tie. It's beating the U.S. in Pittsburgh and then again in Ottawa, 2 back-to-backs. Those would be my 3 top blind hockey memories so far.
Yeah, those are 3 pretty cool and special memories, and I can understand why your third one's a bit of an A-B situation, or 1A, 2A, because, those are very special moments and memories to have been a part of. Kelly, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this podcast in whole, and, what do you think we can maybe do to improve the show going forward?
I think the podcast is great. I think that it really allows the community to get to know other players and what's going on across the country with other programs. I think more player profiles for individuals and provinces that we don't see too much of, more information about the other programs across the country and what they're doing, at a club level, on the ice and off the ice as a group to stick together. All that stuff is interesting. And a lot of times when we go to the events, we're sort of broken up in other teams, so you don't really get a chance to meet all of the players and get to know them as well as, we like to know each other in the community. So I think you guys are doing a great job at the podcast, and my suggestion is just keep up the good work, and you guys keep having great ideas come not only from, I guess, the program director and Matt and yourself, obviously, but also from the blind hockey community.
Well, we appreciate that, and of course, we appreciate you joining us as co-host today. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the future of Canadian blind hockey, maybe just the sport of blind hockey in general?
I think that in the next 3 years, we're going to see a tremendous growth. Once we get back to offering our programs, I think that we're going to really see, as they say now, an uptick in people getting involved in the sport. I think that the clubs are more focused on getting new players at the grassroots level, but also older players who might have played ice hockey before, but due to their visual impairment, stepped away from the game. Podcasts like this, any other type of publicity that we get across the country and internationally, we're going to see the growth. I hope that in a year's time that we're going to be able to have the World Cup of Hockey, where we have Canada, US, Europe, and maybe another combined country join us, and eventually, grow it into events outside of North America, like we did in Finland. We had a camp.
All right, Kelly, well, that's some very interesting perspective there, and we'll see where the development of the game goes on the international level. But before we say goodbye, I have one final question for you. And just prior to that, right now, I want to do a rapid fire with you, if you're okay with that.
Sure, go right ahead.
All right, okay, so I want to know, in your opinion, who's the fastest skater on the Canadian national blind hockey team?
The fastest skater, huh?
You can even include yourself.
I think it'd be a toss-up between Simone, Mark, and Wyatt, in my opinion.
Wow, okay, interesting.
That's what I think.
Wyatt is sneaky fast, and it's funny, not a lot of people bring him up in that conversation, but I like that pick. I really do. Okay, in your opinion, who is the toughest defenseman to beat one-on-one on the national team?
Toughest defenseman to beat? I would say at this point it's the Minister of Defense, Tristan.
I mean, with a nickname like that, yeah, he's got some good stand-up D for sure. Okay, what is your favorite pregame meal?
I actually don't have a favorite pregame meal, to be honest with you. I'm not superstitious at all when it comes to hockey. I'm like a lot of players. I eat fairly light, so maybe some pasta or something, but not very heavy. Maybe some carbs to get me some extra energy, but I don't have a favorite pregame meal.
So I'm guessing you also don't have any like game day rituals then.
Make sure I get to the rink on time and warm up and stretch, and that's about it. I'm pretty quiet before a game if that's a ritual. I don't like to talk a lot. I like to keep to myself a bit and just think and visualize how the game's going to unfold or how I hope it's going to unfold. But other than that, really no pregame rituals either.
Interesting. I like that. That sounds like a very Steve Yzerman, Sidney Crosby-like approach, and that kind of suits you. I like that a lot. Okay, in your opinion, who's the best roommate to have on the national team?
Me. I like to room alone as a veteran, right? I pay the extra for my own room. I like my own space.
I can appreciate that. I think you've earned that right. So that's fair. Okay. Maybe this was a little biased. Who is the best anthem singer you've ever heard at one of your games?
My daughter, Maya Cerbu, 100% hands down.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool moment where she got to sing the anthem, not once, but twice in Ottawa on that special weekend.
Yeah, it was very nice to see that for sure. I loved it.
Kelly, you've been a great co-host today and a good sport in the rapid fire here. Just to wrap things up on a little more of a serious note, how long do you think it will be until I get to interview a player about their experience competing in the parasport of blind hockey at the Winter Paralympic Games?
I'm going to say within the next 8 to 10 years. So 10 years max is what, I would hope that we shoot for as an association and as a global community that is promoting the sport of blind hockey. That's what I'd like to see within the next 10 years. So by 2030, I'd love to see you interviewing someone after the Paralympic gold medals award.
I think we all feel that timeline is very appropriate. We recognize there are certain steps we need to achieve. We understand it's not going to happen overnight, but it's so encouraging and exciting to hear key members in the community, and like you said, the global community, come together with that 10-year timeline. When everyone's on the same page, driving towards that same goal, it really does make it that much more achievable and feel like it's within reach. Kelly, you did a great job. Thank you for joining us today as a co-host of the show. You've been a fantastic ambassador as well for the sport of blind hockey, and we can't thank you enough for all your efforts.
So, Nico, one question for you before we leave.
All right.
When does the national blind hockey team get to have a shoot on as you as our goalie?
Kelly, I at one point may have been open to that idea. Seeing how you've dented some goaltenders' masks, I don't know that I'm comfortable with you ripping one at me.
What if we promise not to raise the puck off the ice?
Oh, I mean, that's not fair. Come on. You know what? All right.
Just trying to make it fair.
I'll be a good sport. I may have to wrap my mask in bubble wrap just to be extra safe, but I will be a good sport. And since I'll have to wear a blindfold anyways, the next national team training camp that happens on the ice, I will strap on the pads. You guys can have some shots on me. You can take your frustrations out on the announcer.
Perfect. Luca, make sure you save this footage. Thanks, Nico.
Kelly, once again, thank you so much for joining us and everything that you do for the sport of blind hockey. Folks, this has been episode 6 of the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. A big thank you to Simone, Kaiden, Jillian, and of course Kelly for their contributions to this week's episode and the sport of blind hockey. Folks, thanks for tuning in to today's show. Remember to check out CanadianBlindHockey.com for all the latest, and stay safe. We'll see you next time. Canadian Blind Hockey programs are supported by AMI, CNIB Foundation, Daniel Family Foundation, Electra Health, Mannion, Parasport TV.